Welcome back to Fertile Frequencies. I am so excited for my guest today. We have Dr. Kela on the show, and she is absolutely wonderful. I recently was on her fertility summit, and she can talk more about that as well as what she does. So, today, Dr. Kela is going to talk about optimizing fertility through quantum medicine as well as energy medicine and lots of other great, amazing conversation in store for you today. So, welcome, Dr. Kela.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'm really excited to be here and an honor to be on your show.
Awesome. Well, we are so excited that you're here as well. So let's just go ahead and jump in. So talking about, we are interested to know about your story and how you got into the work of fertility and pregnancy support and how it relates to all these wonderful, unique energy healing modalities like quantum medicine and how that relates to your story.
Sure. Well, thank you for that. And my story started out of my own personal struggle with infertility, as I'm sure most people's do. My husband and I got pregnant, and we thought it would be really easy or my husband and I got married. We thought it would be easy to get pregnant, and we quickly learned that it wasn't. And so we went to our conventional doctor and told her we were trying. She ran a bunch of tests, told us we were unexplained infertility and to keep trying. And so that's what we did. It still didn't work. And so then she recommended we see a fertility clinic in town. And so we went there. They ran a bunch of tests, gave us the same diagnosis. But then by this point, I was 36, and they said, we really recommend that you do IVF. This is probably going to be your only option. IUI, we kind of missed that boat. So they really wanted us to start with IVF. And so that's when I said, wait a minute, you just told me there was nothing medically wrong with me. You want me to do this invasive medical procedure. And that just didn't sit well with me. And so I left that office being determined to figure out why I had unexplained infertility and really get an explanation. And so that's what I did. I dove into research. This was before Instagram or Facebook or any of the TikToks. And I literally went to my local library and I was like, okay, what causes infertility? What could be my problem? And I dug into that research and I figured it out. And we can talk more about that and some things that I did. But once I figured it out, I implemented these strategies and I ended up getting pregnant, not once, but twice. And I had my two babies. My last one was born when I was 40 years old. And at 40, with a newborn and a 2-year-old, I went back to school and I said, I have to teach this. And so I got certified and then I went on to get my PhD. And I started my company, and this was 8 years ago. And now I work with women and couples all over the world and help them figure out the root cause of why they're not getting pregnant. I help them heal that root and get pregnant. And so that's my story. And I've written a bunch of books and I have a podcast and I just have a wonderful practice that helps a lot of people. So that's my
I
story.
love that. That's so amazing. And thank you so much for sharing that. You know, it's really interesting. I feel that so many people are just, that's the first thing that's thrown at them is let's do IVF, let's do fertility treatments. And we're really not looking at the energy side, the mindset, really thinking about how the body is actually listening to what the mind is telling it. So, well, and I know the listeners are too, absolutely so excited to hear more about exactly what you did. And, you had mentioned that you had started implementing some of this research that you had discovered in your own journey. And so, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I determined, and this wasn't even told to me by my doctors, but just doing research and looking at my lifestyle and my body, I actually had hypothalamic amenorrhea. I was not having a period because I was a personal trainer at the time and I was very thin and I was overexercising and under eating and my cycle went missing. And my doctor never asked me about my cycle. She never said, are you ovulating? Are you having a period? Is it healthy? So that was the big piece. I started working on, okay, well, what do I need to do to get my cycle back? And it was a lot of nourishing foods. I thought, okay, I was eating healthy, but I wasn't eating enough. I wasn't eating enough fat or protein. So I really started to implement that along with adding in fertility friendly foods. I started upping my greens and getting, some choline through eggs and making sure I had enough folate, fatty acids through fish, and just really optimizing my diet, not just for health, but for fertility. And so once I started doing that for a couple of months, my cycle actually came back. And so that was like step number one. Okay, I have a cycle. I was 36 and I started tracking my ovulation. And so once my cycle came back, then my ovulation kind of, I was able to see like, okay, this is actually happening how it should. I was tracking cervical mucus and BBT. So that was kind of the first place I really started. I gained some weight. I think I said that. The other piece of it was, and we'll talk about this as it relates to energy medicine and quantum medicine, but I had the belief that, my body was broken and that I couldn't get pregnant just based on what my doctor, who I trusted, was telling me. And I really had to work on that belief of, no, you can get pregnant. Your body is, that's what it was made to do as a woman. And once we heal and give it the things that it needs to work optimally, then it can and it will get pregnant. So I just really repeated, I had a mantra that I would say and just really repeated that to myself. And I feel that helped my mindset change, which helped my energetic body change. And then my physical body kind of followed suit. So that was really the main things, the belief in changing my diet, also my lifestyle. I was working out a lot, I was working a lot. And I remember my mom said to me, you just need to slow down. You need to slow down. You need to gain some weight and your body will heal. And I thought she was crazy. I was like, what? I'm not slowing down. I can't. I'm in the prime of my career. But I did need to slow down. And so that's one of the things I also did is I just took a step back and I slowed down and I nurtured myself and nourished myself. And those were really the main things I feel that helped me, one, get my cycle back, but also that helped me get pregnant.
Yeah, and that's absolutely incredible. I know it's not fun to go through what you went through of having infertility and really having to figure out the missing pieces here to be able to manifest your two babies into your physical experience. But it led you to your purpose. And so you were working in the health and wellness industry already, which I'd be interested to know too at that time. What were you doing nutrition? Were you working with other kind of clients? Is that really where you like it was physical fitness, nutrition, and then after your fertility journey, you start expanding out and getting more research and education further deeper into like the testing and really working with hormones. And so what is that true? Is that what you were doing in the beginning when you mentioned that you were eating a lot, you were really thin, you were a physical trainer at the time, like a physical fitness trainer?
Yes, so I was a personal trainer for 10 years. I had my own company, so I knew health. I thought I knew health, but as a personal trainer, now it's better, but back then, like 13 to 15 years ago, it was really like, how skinny can you be? How much can you limit your calories? How much, like low fat, no carbs? And so that's what I thought was healthy. And so that's really what I was teaching. And I was working with weight loss and a lot of women. And so that was kind of my platform. Well, once I started struggling with infertility and I started researching and learning that's not what you need for fertility, then I kind of went down a rabbit hole and was like, okay, well, I've been doing this all wrong, So I really switched and I changed my practice. And that's when I went back to school. I decided I wanted to be a health coach. That was the first certification that I got because that was kind of the low hanging fruit. Back then, I was like, I should go back and get my PhD, but that wasn't feasible with a newborn and a 2-year-old. And so I started as a health coach. And then 2 years into my practice, I really wanted to learn more about nutrition and the right pieces of nutrition versus what I had learned in personal training school. And so I went back and I got a certification as a nutritionist. And then about 2 years after that, then my kids were a little bit older and I thought, I really still want that PhD. Like it was in the back of my head, like I really want to learn as much as I can about functional medicine and natural medicine and really have those credentials behind my name. So that's when I went back and got my PhD and master's in natural medicine and now I teach more holistic nutrition, fertility nutrition, and the pieces that I feel help more than what I was doing as a personal trainer.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely amazing. So congrats on all that. It's
Thank you.
incredible to be able
Long journey.
to love what you do. It's not work when you really love what you're doing. You're creating, you're helping other people create the lives that they truly desire to have and are meant to have. So, a quick question for you because I feel like this is a really important question, and we're gonna talk definitely more about the quantum medicine, energy medicine, because that is super exciting, and I know that I'm so excited for this this conversation, but how do you handle talking with someone that maybe is struggling with infertility? I don't really like that word, but fertility obstacles, and they are resistant to changing their lifestyle. Like they exercise a lot, they're feeling very, worried about their image, and they want to do what they want to do, and they're not going to, it's harder to get them to eat more protein or eat more fat to really change, not exercise so much, because I see that. And that's
Mhm.
what I'm curious about is how you actually handle a situation like that.
Yeah, well, first, that was me. I did not want to change at all. And I was very resistant to doing that. I was resistant to gaining weight because my image, you're wrapped up in your physical body. And my image was I was the skinny personal trainer, even though I had muscle, I had very low body fat. And so I will tell somebody first that they have to believe that they can change and that it's okay to change and step down and really refocus your activity, your movement, your food towards this new goal of getting pregnant. And I know for me, I just wanted permission to do that. I wanted somebody to tell me it's okay if you don't work out 24/7 and you don't, you eat a little bit of food. Your body needs food. So I really just try to hold my client's hand and let them know that one, I want you to have the belief that this can happen. And two, I want you to know that it's okay and that you're going to feel even better when you start to implement these changes. And 10 times out of 10, they come back to me and say, "Oh my gosh, I feel amazing. I didn't gain weight," or if they, needed to gain weight and they gained a little, they actually feel better and they love their body even more. And so it's really a game changer when you have that person that's supporting you, telling you, like, it's okay, you can do this, and this is how you do it. And then they get the results and they love the fact that they did it in the first place. So, and then that's their new lifestyle. Once they start to adopt, more nourishing movement, more nourishing food, then they really start to say, like, I love how I feel, I love how I look, even better than I did before. So it's really beautiful to watch and to help support somebody through that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really incredible. It is because a fertility journey is not just about manifesting the baby into your life. It's about really finding your purpose and really being in alignment with your truth and what you came here for to accomplish on a soul journey. So, absolutely, I think that, it is beautiful, like you said, to really watch someone blossom and to really be in that energy where they not only get the pregnancy, but also enjoy this new
Yeah.
version of themselves, and being a parent as well is really, really powerful. So, would you explain quantum medicine and how this optimizes your fertility?
Yeah, so quantum medicine is really the idea that we're not just physical beings, but we are mental, emotional, and spiritual. And so instead of looking at just the physical form, what most people do in Western medicine, conventional medicine, they're looking at the body and the systems and the parts as different individual parts. Well, quantum medicine looks at the mindset, the energetic body, your thoughts, feelings, and emotions can affect the way that your physical body manifests itself and manifests its symptoms. And they really believe that it's a top-down approach. Quantum medicine, one of the main philosophies is that it's top-down. So it really starts with your bliss body, which is that higher, all-knowing, the spirit, whether you believe in God or whatever higher being you believe in, that's where it starts. And then that goes into your supramental, which is your intuition body, that all knowing, the you knowing, not the higher power knowing, but you actually internally knowing what to do for your body, mind, and spirit. Then it goes to the mental, thoughts, feelings, and emotions. How do you feel about something? What is the belief system that you have? What are the stories that you've created? All of this ties into how your energetic body responds. This is the meridian channel. This is what acupuncturists work on, that energetic being that flows through all of us. And then that goes into your physical body. So everything's controlled from the top down versus conventional medicine says the physical body is really what needs to be healed and what we're looking at. So it's just a different philosophy of medicine and a different approach, and one that I found is very powerful. And it's actually been used for thousands of years around the world by many different medicines. If you look at Ayurvedic medicine or, traditional Chinese medicine, they're all using this kind of quantum physics, if you will. And it's really powerful.
That's amazing. Well, I definitely, you preaching to the choir here because
Right.
that is so much about what this show's about and also about my philosophy. And, as an acupuncturist who's been doing this a long time, specializing in reproductive medicine and fertility, I have found that there's so many people that, they are just doing one part of it. So acupuncture is a very energetic, spiritual medicine theory. But, so many people will get acupuncture for years and years and years and are not getting pregnant because you have to focus on the energy first. You have to focus on the belief system. You have to focus on the subconscious mind. Because if you're running those programs that, limiting beliefs, you can do acupuncture, you can do supplements, you can do diets, you can do all kinds of different treatments. You can do IVF. I mean, why is there so much unexplained infertility then if it's like you said, where we have to look at the energy, the energetic body first. And so I love acupuncture. I do. I'm an acupuncturist. I still offer it, but you have to look at the energy first with everything. You have to focus on the mind first with everything in your life. And so that's incredible. So thank you so much for explaining that and sharing that information with us. So as far as there might be people that might question quantum medicine, energy medicine, and how would you explain this to people that might have doubt? Like, how would you, there are people that are on the verge of things. So, and we see that a lot because we're mavericks really in what we're doing and it's very unique. And so there's going to be people that are going to come to you that they're curious, but they might be on the fence about it. So, how would you explain that to them and how this could be beneficial for their journey?
Yeah, sure. And I think skepticism is, it's a natural human emotion. And I think it's good to be a skeptic, but you can't argue with the science. And the science is already catching up to this. If you look at fields like epigenetics, neuroscience, even quantum biology, they all say that we're energetic beings. And you can't argue that you do have energy inside you. I don't care how of an unbeliever you are, we do have energy, and it's what keeps us alive. So, really looking at that and looking at those fields of study, I think just give it a chance and give it, start to utilize it in your own life and see the results that you get. Even just changing one belief at a time. If you believe that my body's broken and then I'll never heal, just switch that around like I'm not broken and I can heal and see the magic that comes into your life. I promise you will not be a skeptic for long once you start to adopt this philosophy. So I can't say enough good things about quantum medicine. I just think it's a beautiful practice and one that everybody should try.
I love it. Well, thank you for that. And just to add to that, do you have a favorite story that you like to talk about of maybe a client of yours that really is maybe someone that was skeptical and they chose to trust and move into this unknown territory and had these amazing results? Is there anything that I know have all these stories that I will tell for inspiration to my clients, which definitely helps people to manifest what it is that they want to bring into their life, like a baby, gives them that hope and inspiration. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I have so many stories. I mean, I work on this with every client that I work with, but one story in particular that I love is I was working with a lady or a couple. They were trying to get pregnant for about 3 years. And when she came in, she was, completely broken. Her words just had been told by conventional medicine that she could not get pregnant. And they had done a couple rounds of IVF and it had failed. And she just was at the end of the road, kind of rope, and just was really frustrated and just didn't know where to turn. So we started working together, and I told her to do something which I find is so cool. But I said, I want you to go and get a picture of what you think your future child will look like. And it can look like you and your husband. It can be, look like an uncle or an aunt, or just get a picture so you have something physical that you can look at and you can put that in your mind's eye. So that's what she did. She got a picture off the internet and put it over her bed. And every night she looked at this picture of this little girl. The little girl had dark hair. Her and her husband both were Spanish descent, and they had dark hair and dark eyes. And so they had this little picture of this little girl, and she looked at it every day and said her mantra that we created together for her to say. And in about 4 months, she got pregnant, which was amazing because she'd been trying for like 3 years and had done failed cycles. And so she finally was pregnant and she gave birth. And I promise you, that little girl looked exactly like that picture. It was so crazy. And they were just, obviously, they were thrilled. It was just a beautiful picture. And it goes to show and prove what we've been talking about, that you can manifest things. It's not woo-woo. It's calling
Mm-mm.
in the energy that you want in your life. And we can't even get into the talk of spirit babies. That could have been her spirit baby up there waiting for her to invite it in. And so it was just a beautiful story. And I have thousands of those stories, and it's really, really cool. Yeah.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing that, and that for your client that, they worked with you and you were able to really help them, and that's absolutely incredible. And yes, it is manifestation. It's not it's it I tell people all the time, it's not as hard as you think. There's all these different techniques, and it's just not. It's learning how to switch on, I know something is happening for me, and not having the doubt. And that can be hard when you've struggled with things like fertility obstacles. You have to work back. It's like peeling an onion, you have to peel back the layers. So it's not always just that easy, but it really is. It's not this big, like you said, this big woo-woo thing. It's and science is really proving that what we think about is actually manifesting. And I always tell my clients, do something small, ask the universe, if just to learn how to see how significant manifestation is and how powerful you are. Do something small, manifest a cup of coffee that day, or manifest a parking spot, or, manifest someone reaching out to you that hasn't called you in a while, or whatever it is. But don't be attached. Don't think about it all day long, obsessing over it. It's just really allowing it to flow and come in. And that is, you mentioned spirit babies. That is something, as a spirit baby medium, that really the babies will actually share with me when I'm delivering messages to my clients, is that it's really letting go of the outcome, knowing that I'm coming, believing, knowing, believing. I say believing, but knowing is very much more stronger. Yes, the visualization. It's interesting how we have intuitive connections to things and we don't even realize it. Like what you had mentioned with your client, that she had this visualization. She just picked out that picture, and the baby looks like her and her husband. I've seen that with kids that come that have been adopted, or also through egg donation or sperm donation, that they will actually look like the person that did not actually contribute, the egg or sperm. So it's interesting. I believe that when a soul's meant to be with you, they're meant to be with you, and they're going to have those characteristics. That the body is just a shell, it's really not who you are. It's just a body. So, well, that's incredible. I'm sure that you have thousands of stories because you help so many people, and I absolutely love that. So, I know that you did a study on this, and I'm super excited to hear about that, a study on fertility, and quantum medicine. So you want to talk more about that with us?
Sure. So I did a study for my dissertation research paper where it was called Optimizing Fertility Through Quantum Medicine. And I got 12 people to do this study with me. And all of these people had been working on getting pregnant. Some of them had been struggling for 4 years, some were at 2 years, 3 years. They all had a common theme of they had infertility. And there was different cases. I had one lady that had PCOS, one lady had endo. One of the main themes that I didn't realize when I first kind of gathered the people that I wanted to work with in the study, because all I said was, have you been struggling to get pregnant? I'm doing a study if you want to apply. And then I had people apply. So, but one of the main themes of all 12 people, they all had trauma in their lives in the past, some even back to childhood trauma. And so, whenever we started working together, I worked with them through quantum medicine. So, obviously, we did the physical piece with nutrition and lifestyle, but then we also did the mindset, the mental and emotional pieces, and really worked on their mindset shifts, really diving into their energy piece. I had them all carry a crystal, and so they tapped into the energy of the crystal. We used herbs, and so I had them drink herbal teas every day. So we tapped into that energy of the herbs, and the medicinal qualities of the herbs. We did visualization and meditation every day. So really trying to hit every piece, mind, body, and spirit, to optimize their fertility. And so out of that study, it was a 12-week long study with 12 people. We had 6 people get pregnant. And they all struggled with infertility, which was so cool and so crazy. And we were really happy with those results. A 50% success rate out of the 12 people. And now they have healthy babies. And, it was just really amazing. Everybody left the study healthier and, mind, body, and spirit than they came in. And then, we had the 6 people with the babies. So it was a really cool, cool study, and we loved putting it on.
That's incredible. I mean, 50%.
I
That's
know.
really amazing.
Yeah, and I know we talked about this offline, but it's really hard to get people to do a study because they just don't know,
Right.
they don't have time. And so I'm like, what if that had been, 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people? It just could have been so much bigger. But 12 people, we were happy with the 6 that did get pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, and how much of that do you think was really, and just how you feel about it, how much of that do you really think was more about the energy versus the physical?
Yeah, I think they all play a role. I don't think
Yeah.
one piece is more important than the other, but without the energy, you're not going to affect the physical body. So
Mm,
I take that back. If we had just done the physical, I think we wouldn't have had the
right,
results that we had. I think it all works together, but you can't have the energy and not work on the physical, and vice versa. So
right, right, absolutely. For someone that is doing everything right, in quotes, that, they're taking all the right supplements, they're doing the testing, they're getting acupuncture, they're working with a natural doctor, they're working with a fertility doctor, a reproductive endocrinologist, possibly, and they're doing meditations. I find it interesting. Why are they still not getting pregnant? So I encourage my clients always to definitely focus on, as much as they can, healthy diet, taking the right supplements. Not all supplements are created equal. Working with someone that truly is a professional versus that might not have the right training. I know that there's a lot of people online now, and I'm always educating, making sure that people do their research and who they're working with. But um, that mindset work. I
Mhm.
just feel like it's the biggest component to this. And yes, I definitely agree. I think the physical body is really important too. So I was just curious how you felt about that.
Sorry,
Yeah.
just to answer that really fast too.
Yeah.
If somebody's listening to this and they're doing all the things
Right.
and the mindset piece isn't a part of the equation, then they're definitely missing a huge piece. And that could be the one piece of why they're not getting pregnant. So I definitely agree with
Mhm.
that. But I wouldn't say come in and you're eating McDonald's every day and you're
No.
not sleeping and you're not moving, and then you're just gonna think you're gonna get pregnant and just you're like, I've got the mindset piece down. That's not going to work either. So you have to have both. But I do think mindset is very, very important, and you have to have that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I think that when we're in the right mindset, we make better choices
For
too. And when your central nervous system is calm, you sleep better.
yes.
So, absolutely, it's definitely an integrative practice here with fertility for sure. Do you want to talk more about the energetics of food? I know that before offline we were talking about that, and that is something that I'm going to talk soon on this show. And I would love it if you could share your take on that.
Sure. Well, food is medicine and food is energy. That's literally what a calorie is. It's energy. And so the food that you eat is going to give the body the energy that it needs to do all the functions that it needs to do. And how do you get the most energetic food? You eat real whole foods, foods that haven't been processed, foods that haven't been stripped of their nutrients. And by this, I mean eating things like the colors of the rainbow, lots of leafy greens and lots of vegetables. If you can eat some of that raw, you're doing some salads and things, that's good. You're not going to kill the nutrients by heating. But I also know in Chinese medicine, we don't want to eat a strictly cold diet because we want the uterus to be warm. So I think you need to do a little bit of a combination of both. I also believe that animal protein is something that our body needs, eating foods from the earth, not just vegetables, but also fish and meats and things that either had a mom or were living in the ground. That's how the diet should be. And that's what's going to give you the most energy in your body to be able to perform at peak performance. And so that's a little bit about the food and the energy. Also, having food and plants, the plants are getting the energy from the sun. And so then that's going to go into your body and give you energy. So again, I think it's really important to have that balanced whole food nutrition, but focus heavily on plants, a little bit of meat, some fish, some nuts and seeds. And that's really a beautiful fertility diet.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I think it's cutting out. I'll have to cut that out.
Oh no, what part didn't you
Yeah.
hear?
It's just it seems delayed. I don't know if it's my connection or your
Oh
connection.
no.
It's okay. It's okay. I didn't know. I'm like, where is she? When is she done talking? I don't want to interrupt
Oh
her. So
no.
I'll just cut this part out. But
Get it all that I said?
I did, yeah. It's
Okay,
like
but
the
then it froze.
audio was fine, but your face was like going like like,
Oh
wait, I don't want
no.
to interrupt
Oh
her.
my, I don't think it's mine because I record on this all the time.
I don't know. Colorado, I'm in Denver, so our infrastructure can be kind of goofy sometimes. So,
Oh no.
but
Do I need to repeat any of that?
no, I think you should
Okay,
be
you got it.
fine.
Video, sorry. Do you use the video on this or is it just the audio?
Sometimes I do. It depends. I
Okay.
usually like to take a clip
Clips, yeah. Okay.
and then use it, when I promote you. Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully you got
So
that was a good piece. I hope I got that.
it was, and I have a follow-up question. Okay. Well, thank you so much for all that, Dr. Kayla. I couldn't agree with you more. And with the Eastern philosophy, it can be challenging sometimes to work with someone that's vegan.
Yes.
Um, I was vegan for many years, and I prefer mostly a vegetarian diet, but I do eat some eggs and some fish every once in a while now. But how do you work with someone that's trying to conceive? What exactly do you talk with them about, or someone that's absolutely resistant to animal protein? Because I feel that, I've had people come to me that have felt like they worked with someone in the past that was kind of militant about it, and it made them feel really bad. So I definitely try not to do that, even though we know that animal protein is very helpful for trying to conceive. Can you talk a little bit about how you might work with somebody that is more plant-based or is all plant-based and just resistant?
Sure. Well, the first thing is a couple of things. I think this is a really good point of why it's helpful to work with somebody because they can work with your dietary restrictions and help you learn how to eat a vegan diet if that's what you choose to do for fertility. So I think that's the first place. Really meeting somebody where they are is the second place. If you're not open to eating animal protein, I would never force that on somebody. But that's also where we need to say, okay, we know that protein, especially animal protein, is good for fertility. And if you're not open to eating that, then let's find other ways where we can get the protein that you need and make sure that you're not protein deficient, because that is going to affect things like your hormone production, your immune system, your gut health. So we need to be really creative in creating a diet for you for your fertility journey. So maybe that means we're eating more beans, we're eating more, plant-based proteins, we're still eating lots of good quality vegetables. The quality of our food is where we need it. We're eating mostly organics, but we're really working within those diet constraints. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing I would say too is I would really find out, why are you vegan in the first place? Because a
Mm.
lot of times when I have that conversation, people will tell me, oh, because I think it's healthy, plant-based is promoted as a really healthy diet. And that's when we would just have a conversation. And I would say, well, actually, the studies show that eating animal protein can actually be more beneficial than not. But back to meeting the client where they are, I'm never going to force it on them, but I'm going to educate them as to why they might want to eat meat. And then if they choose still not to, then we would work on getting more creative and adding plant-based proteins. So I think it can work either way, but if you're not eating animals, we do have to be really mindful and track, okay, are we getting enough protein? Are we getting enough fat? You can't just eat vegetables. I want you to eat a lot of vegetables, but you have to have all the macros in order to have a healthy diet, but also a fertility focused one.
Yeah, absolutely. And we find too, I know that I find that people that eat all plant-based, it's not always the case. There are ways to do it correctly. Absolutely. It does require a lot of education and dedication just to make sure that you are doing it correctly. But a cold womb, and you had mentioned that. And we have to have not a hot womb. You don't have it too hot in there, but we have to have a warm womb to really be able to nurture life. So I always, especially with my IVF clients over the years, I've mentioned that if you were an embryo, would you prefer Antarctica or would you prefer Hawaii? You'd probably say, well, I'd want to be on the beach. They're gonna want a warm womb space, and definitely ways that in Chinese medicine that we see is a lot of blood clots, cramping, that those are definitely signs of a cold womb. And also wearing socks, since I'm talking about the cold womb, making sure that you're wearing socks and not walking around on a cold floor. Well, definitely, I appreciate all of that. And I know sometimes it can be challenging with plant-based diets. And I'm the same. I try to meet my clients where they are. I never want people to ever feel bad or guilty about things or shameful, because that's not good for your fertility journey either. That's probably one of the main areas that people really struggle with that are experiencing fertility obstacles is if I can talk right, guilt and shame. And you
Yeah.
had mentioned this earlier in your study about the trauma, and so much of that's coming way before the fertility journey too. And a lot of it, most of it's in childhood, most likely. So absolutely couldn't agree with you more on that. So I know that you have a couple of books coming out, which
Yeah.
is super exciting. And there is actually, you have 7 books that you've written already. So there's lots of wonderful information out there that you can pick up from Dr. Kela. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your books coming up?
So my first one is a cookbook and it's coming out. This is my second cookbook. I haven't done one though in about 8 years, so this will be really fun. And it's optimizing AMH and egg health. And so this will be a full meal plan around foods that you can eat to focus on optimizing your AMH and your egg health. AMH, for those listening who don't know, it's anti-Müllerian hormone, and this can show us your egg reserve. And so if you're somebody who's had that test and it's under 1, it is low and we need to work on fixing it. That's one thing that conventional medicine does not tell you, is that you can improve that. So if you have had that test and it is low, it can be improved through the right diet and lifestyle. So that's what that book will teach you how to do. Some really delicious recipes in there, easy to prepare, and with lots of nutritious foods for fertility and egg health and AMH. So that's the first book coming out this quarter. And then I actually have a little mini book that is the freebie for this this podcast. So we'll give that at the end and they can get a copy of it's just a little snippet from the book with a couple recipes in there so they can see what it's all about. So that's the first book. And then the second book is coming out, depending on the editor, third quarter, we're thinking second or third quarter. And that book is called Solving Your Infertility Puzzle, Your Guide to Optimized Fertility. And so I go through my story, the pieces of the hormone puzzle that I talk about for foundational fertility. And then I go through all my lab testing that I recommend, what the functional labs are that I do, what do they show, what are the parameters on reading them, what protocols would I use with them. And so it's a really deep dive into some things that you might have not thought about that could be affecting your fertility and how to identify those and what to do to heal. And so that book is going to be really amazing, and I can't wait to share it with the world. So yeah, look for those books. They'll be on Amazon and on our websites, and we'll talk about the website at the end.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. Well, congratulations on that and all the other content that you have out, even if it was seven or I think you said 7 or 8 years ago that your last book. And it's just yeah, it's wonderful that you have all that out there for people. And going back to the AMH, I love that you brought that up. I've seen that over the years. I try to educate on that as well, that people are told that they can't change that, which is incredibly not true. In fact, I had someone recently that's over 40 and she had an AMH that was under zero point 0.5. And through working together, through doing a lot of mindset work as well as acupuncture, herbs, and then she also did a ovarian rejuvenation
PRP.
procedure, the PRP as well. Her AMH went up to over 1 in about less than 6 months. I think it was about 5 months. So the doctors were just kind of like, she's like, you told me I couldn't fix this. Absolutely, you can fix it. So it's we have to empower people and educate people to know that they're not stuck. There's a lot of solutions here. It's just really finding the tool. And people like you, Dr. Kela, are really helping people to know that there is hope. And so that's absolutely incredible. So, do you want to tell us more about the free gift that you had mentioned for optimizing egg quality?
Yeah, so it's the Egg Health Guide that I was just speaking of earlier. It's a little snippet of the cookbook that's coming out, but I talk about different strategies for optimizing your AMH, improving it, causing it to go up, as well as strengthening the quality of your eggs. And then there's some recipes in that guide that go through different nutrients that are specifically for optimizing eggs and AMH. And even though this is written about eggs and AMH, the same rules apply for sperm. So your partner and your husband, they can eat these recipes too, and it will help their sperm health as well. So yeah, so I'm sure you'll put this in the show notes, but for those listening, you get this at hormonepuzzlesociety.com/egg-health-guide, and that'll give you a free copy.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that. And you do have a summit.
Yeah, so our summit actually just passed,
Yeah.
but they can still access it, and it's at solving-infertility.com.
That's amazing. And just real quick, just tell us a little bit about what the summit is about.
Yeah, so we had 97 speakers talking about everything to do with fertility optimization from mind, body, spirit. We had some speakers speaking on unexplained infertility. Every diagnosis, we had speakers speaking on how to overcome that diagnosis and heal things like PCOS, endometriosis, advanced maternal age, premature ovarian failure. So we had the gamut of doctors and dietitians, nutritionists, mindset coaches, acupuncturists. I mean, everybody you can think of, we brought together to teach you how to proactively heal your body so that you can get pregnant at any age. And it was a great event. So, like I said, it did pass for free, but you can still access it for a small fee to have access to all of those recordings for life. So that's at solving-infertility.com.
Well, that's absolutely incredible. I know I really enjoyed being on the summit, speaking about spiritual fertility and spirit babies. That's definitely an area of focus for me. So thank you so much. It was absolutely incredible to be a part of that. And I'm so glad that you talked about it so that people can access that through your website. And then just real quick, tell us how people can find you. I know that you mentioned some of your links already, but tell us how, if the listeners can find you.
Yeah, so my website is the best place, and that's at hormonepuzzlesociety.com. And on there, we have free gifts and guidebooks around fertility optimization, balancing hormones. There's even a guide for pregnancy if you're already pregnant. So check those out. And then I'm also on social. My favorite place to hang out is Instagram. And so I'm at Kela_health coach. Kela's Kela. And then I'm also on Hormone Puzzle Method. I have a podcast, the Hormone Puzzle Podcast, where everywhere podcasts are heard. And I'm also, we didn't even talk about this, but really quick, I just got on TikTok and I have a certification program for people who want to be fertility coaches. I founded that in 2019, and it will give you everything that you need to launch yourself as a fertility coach. And I'm talking a lot about it on TikTok, and that is at Dr. Kela Smith. So, yeah, those are all the places.
It's absolutely amazing. Well, thank you so much. I'm sure there would be a lot of people here that want to connect with you. You're just an absolute wealth of knowledge as well as wisdom, and it's just amazing what you're doing. And thank you so much for all the work that you do and helping all the people that you do. And just real quick, any last thoughts here for the listeners before we go?
Sure. So I just want to tell all the listeners, well, first, Lindsay, thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure to talk to you. You're always so fun. So I really appreciate you, everything that you do for the world. So thank you. And for the listeners, I just want to say if you're listening to this and you're struggling with infertility, please do not give up. You're not broken. You're not, you do have the chance to get pregnant, and it starts with your belief in yourself and in your body's ability to heal. So I just want you to know you have hope. I want you to take that to your core. Do not give up until you reach the end of that path to parenthood and you have your baby in your arms. It might look different than you originally thought, but there is hope and you will have your baby. So do not give up. So that's all. So thank you again for having me.
Well, thank you so much. That was very empowering. I have chills all over my body. That was beautiful. And you speak so much from the heart. I know that your story has so much to do with why you do what you do. And thank you so much. And
Thank you.